guys, and welcome back to my poker vlog. This is episode number 5. In this episode, we're going over hands from a 1-3 cash game session at Agua Caliente in Rancho Mirage, California. We bought in for 300 and ran up a good stack, spoiler alert. Before we start the hands, I want to go over some things. Thanks for the support on the channel. It really means a lot. We're almost at 100 subscribers. So if you hit the like button, that'll really help the channel out a ton and show it to more people. And if you're new here, consider hitting the subscribe button. We're going to be posting bi-weekly videos, and the comment section should be getting interesting as more people give their input on my hand histories. So without further ado, let's jump into some hands. The first hand to note, we looked down at pocket queens in the small blind. Like I said, we bought in for 300, but at this point we have 250 in our stack. The under the gun +2 position now bets $10. A middle position player calls the $10, and a late middle position player who has 25 in his stack declares that he's all in. Folds around to me in the small blind, and we are going to be putting in a raise here. In the moment, I raised it to $56, and my logic was, in this game, a $10 raise to 56 was seen as a big raise, so I didn't really need to raise it to 75 or normal 3x raise in order to get a lot of folds. So I raised it up to 56. Like I thought, the under the gun +2 position folded, and the middle position player makes the call. So now we're going essentially heads up to the flop because one person is all in position. Flop comes ace-10-4 with 2 diamonds, and we do have the queen of diamonds, which is decently important, but when it is checked to us in position here, we are going to be putting in a bet all day. So I bet $30, and he pretty quickly calls. Just because he calls here doesn't mean that I'm putting him on an ace. If you remember the action pre-flop, he just smooth called a $10 bet. You have to figure in these games, if someone has ace-king, ace-queen, ace-jack type hand, you're going to be 3-betting that. So if he does have an ace, it's going to be a fairly weak one, and I'm not necessarily concluding that right off the bat. The turn comes in offsuit 6 now, and he checks it again to us. So when he checks it again here, I'm going to go with my read on the flop, and we end up betting $50. My logic here is that if he ends up calling, we can check behind on the river because he most likely will be checking 3 streets to us. It doesn't make sense for him to call my bet here and then lead on the river. And also, if he has a king in his hand, we want to deny equity to that because obviously any king on the river will beat us. And if he has a pocket pair below our queens, we don't want him to hit that on the river as well. So we need to deny equity. So I fire $50 and he ends up making the fold. The all-in player for $25 shows pocket jacks. We show pocket queens. We hold, we're good, and we scoop a nice sized pot. So now we're sitting with about 400 in our stack. We're in the hijack, and we look down at 4-6 of hearts. A middle position player limps for $3, and it folds around to us in the hijack. This could be a fold here a lot of the times. However, in these games, I like to bluff a lot of the times on later streets, and people have noticed that I bluff. So when I raise pre-flop, people notice that I'm usually pretty strong, and then I will bluff with my ace-high type hands. It's good to balance your range and put some of these suited one-gappers and suited connectors into your range so that way when the board is low and you are firing, you're not 100% bluffing. So that's what I do. I raise it up with 4-6 of hearts to $20. The button makes the call and the big blind makes the call, and the middle position player ends up folding. So we're going 3 ways to the flop in position with 4-6 of hearts. The flop comes king-jack-4 with 2 diamonds and no hearts, so we don't have any backdoor draws, but we do make a pair of 4s. When it gets checked to me here, I think a bet is in order. Obviously this hits my hijack raising range a lot more than their small blind and big blind calling range, so we're going to be putting in a bet here. I end up making it $24. Surprisingly, both players make the call here, so when this happens here, I'm putting one on a jack and one on a diamond draw and proceeding accordingly, and we're off to a turn. With around 136 in the pot, the turn comes another 4. So now we obviously make a gin card here, a very disguised trips, hoping that someone has a king or a jack at this point. Obviously diamonds is never giving up in this type of game. So when the big blind checks it over to me, I am obviously going to be firing here. We want to build a pot as soon as possible and deny equity to any potential straight draws or flush draws. So that's what we do. We bet $46 here, which is a little bit less than half pot. I was trying to keep everybody in that had hands that I was ahead of. In hindsight, I think we can size up here. Like I said, people aren't going to be folding a lot of one pair type hands to me, as well as all the draws in these types of games, people get really sticky. So I think we can size up here. I think we can go in the neighborhood of $70, maybe $65 to $70 instead of my 46. But given the way I played, the button does make the call and the big blind gets out of the way. With around 228 in the pot, the river now comes the deuce of clubs. A complete blank here, and when it is my turn, I think we have to be betting here all day. We can't risk a check back. Obviously, trip jacks is going to be winning this. Obviously, trip fours is such a disguised hand, and we should be winning this a lot of the time. I take a look at her stack on the button, and has around $60 in her stack. So there's only one move here. We go all in for that much. She pretty quickly calls. We show our 4-6 of hearts. She checks her hand again and looks a little bit disgusted and tosses them into the muck. So we pick a pretty good sized pot here and move it into our stack. I think this is a good example of hands that you should be throwing into your pre-flop raising range. Obviously 4-6 could be a little bit low. Maybe you do it with something like 10-8, 7-5, maybe 6-4 is right on the cutoff. Given that it was one limp and folded to me, I think that this was a fine play. And then we can give up on flops so we don't hit. So yeah, we end up scooping that pot, and people now think that we are crazy for playing 4-6, but that's good. We're going to tighten up our range now, and let's move on to the next one. In a six-handed game now, some people have left. We have around 550 in our stack, and we look down at ace-king offsuit. Like I said earlier, we've been tightening up our range now because people have seen us show the 6-4. So we're going to be playing this ace-king all day here. Under the gun now limps, which in a typical game would be pretty strong. However, I did not deem this as a strong move. The under the gun +1 now raises to $10, which is a little bit stronger, but when it folds around to me here, we're going to be putting in the raise all day here. It's ace-king offsuit. If we're not raising this, what are we raising? We can't just be raising aces and kings here. We have to have other hands that we can put into our range here. So we raise it up. I choose the sizing of $33, a little bit more than 3x, and everyone folds. So we end up picking that one up. On to the next one.
Yeah, but you won't kick. Lex Luthor.
With around 580 in our stack, we look down again at ace-king offsuit. This time we're in middle position. When it folds to me in middle position, I'm going to be putting in a raise here. My typical raise size when it's folded to me and there's no action in the pot other than the blinds is around 4x in this game, so that's what I do. I make it $12. The button, the small blind, and the big blind all make the call. So we are going 4 ways to a flop with ace-king offsuit. Flop comes king 4-3 rainbow. The small blind and big blind both check it over to me, and I need to be betting here all the time. I end up betting $23 into a pot of around $50. I think if anyone has a king here, they'll be calling, and obviously because it is a rainbow board, there's not really that much to be worried about. So I bet $23, and we get one caller from the small blind. And now the player that I beat with the 4-6 of hearts hand in the big blind goes all in for an entire stack of $100. So then it folds back around to us here, and obviously we are going to be putting in the call here all day. We're not going to be folding another, what is it, $77 to win a fairly large pot here, and ace-king is going to be ahead of a ton of things. I'm putting her on a king here, but one that we beat. I don't really see king deuce or king tray in her range from the big blind. So yes, she shoves for $100. We put in the call here, and the other player gets out of the way. Turn is the 10 of hearts. The river is the queen of hearts. She shows king 9 for a top pair, and we show our ace king, and we are obviously good. So we drag that pot. On to the next one.
Good enough. Things should take a weird turn.
Yeah. Get in there, choo-choo train. Quick double up.
With around $700 now in our stack from our original buy-in of $300, we are in under the gun position. And as you can tell from the title of this video, we have none less than ace-king offsuit again for the third time. I raise it up to $14. I add a little bit more than my normal $12 raise because we are going to be out of position if anyone calls. So I make it $14 and only the middle position player calls. So we are going heads up to the flop with around $30 in the pot. The flop comes Jack 9-4 with 2 hearts. We have the King of Hearts, which is important, but I check it over to him here. I don't really decide in this moment that a bet is in order. I check it over to him and he decides pretty quickly to check it behind. So we are going to a turn. The turn comes as 6 of hearts here, which is interesting because we pick up a 4 flush. Obviously any heart now gives us a very good heart draw, and if the ace of hearts comes on the river, we obviously have the nut flush draw. I think a small bet here is fine. However, in the moment, I decide to check. My logic being that if I bet and I get raised, obviously I'm not going anywhere, but it's gonna bloat the size of the pot, and there's only about 9 cards on the river that I feel comfortable calling a bet with. So I decided to check call in this situation. So I check it over to him. He decides to check back. Fine by me. Ace high might be good here, as well as our heart draw. So I check it over to him. He checks behind. We are going to a river. The river now comes the 5 of hearts, the gin card. We only lose to an ace high flush. And in this situation, we should be betting a large portion of the time. It is pretty obvious that we probably do have a big heart here because we raised pre-flop. But given the way that I checked the flop and the turn, he could convince himself that I just have a pocket pair. So my instincts were to check it over to him. I'm not really sure if this is the correct play in the long run here. You can leave a comment down below and let me know. But given the way I played it, I'll let you know what happened. And I check it over to him, and he decides this is a good time for him to put in a bet. There's around $31 in the pot, and now he makes a $20 bet. Comes around to me, I take my time here. Obviously a raise is in order, but I don't want to do it too fast here, make him think that I am a capable player, able to make a bluff here. So that's exactly what I do. I raise him up. I raise him up pretty small to $55 over his $20 raise. He thinks about it for a little bit, is a little bit disgusted that he decided to bet, probably had a lower heart here and cannot make the call here, and he decides to toss it into the muck. We scoop the pot. Ace King is good to us again here, and we are on to the next one.
Wanted to sell more shit back in the 60s.
With around 730 in our stack, we are blessed with the ladies. Once again, we look down at pocket queens. This session has been going pretty well. We've had Ace King 3 times and now pocket queens twice. With the straddle on, we are in the button position. The under the gun position player limps, middle position player limps, and this is pretty common in a straddle situation here. But now with 2 calls to a straddle, it folds around to me here. And obviously we are going to be raising the queens. We are also in the button position, which is pretty good because people are going to think that we're going to be raising light here a lot of the time. I raise it up to $32. I think this is a fine raise size here. Obviously the straddle is $6, but then you add in the 2 limps. So normally over 1 straddle I'd probably make it 20, but then because of the 2 limps I add another 6 per limper. So that's where I got the $32 from. Unfortunately everyone folds. They give me credit this time. Good reads. On to the next one.
Too young?
This next hand is a fun one. We are in the big blind and we look down at deuce 4 of spades. It's 6-handed at this point. Under the gun +1 position raises to $6. Obviously I'm putting him on a pocket pair here or a weaker hand because he only made it $6. We have a middle position player who also calls a $6, and when it folds around to me here, I am not going to be folding, so I complete. And we are going 3 ways to a flop. The flop comes King 9-6 with 2 spades here. We're out of position, and I want to make it look like we have a 1-pair type hand here. I don't want to check. It gets checked through. A spade comes, and then I bet, and no one, and everyone believes me, and then I win a small pot here. So I'm going to lead out here in this situation, and I do so for $8. Under the gun +1 position folds here, so I think my read pre-flop with a pocket pair is probably correct. However, middle position player does not believe us, and he makes the call. So we're going heads up to a turn here. The turn comes the 7 of spades here, so we get there right on the turn. I'm not worried about too many other spade type hands. Obviously, there is a risk when you are going in with low spades that you're going to be flush over flushed. But given that we have a complete flush here, I think a bet is totally fine most of the time. Like I said, I've been playing the session a little bit trickier. So I decide now, after leading the flop, to show that I'm scared of this third spade, and I check it over to him. He ends up betting $10 here, which I think is a probing type bet. He's seeing where he's at. And in a lot of situations here, if I didn't have a flush, I would also be raising this here. But given that we do not want to have the river check back, raise here is mandatory given our line. So when he bets $10, I raise him up to $30. He pretty quickly makes the call, and we are going off to a river. The river comes the 9 of clubs here, so the 4th spade breaks off. That's always the one worry when you have a 4 high flush, is that another spade will come and you lose to anybody who has a spade even 1 card higher than you. But luckily, that is not the case, and now we are out of position here with a flush. And this is where the hand gets a little bit interesting. In this situation, I would never be checking here. I would be always betting somewhere in the neighborhood of 3/4 size of the pot, so maybe around $75. The thing is, without me even checking, he now puts in a bet for $60. If he perceived that I checked on the river here, this bet is very strong because a lot of kings will be checking back here, just trying to realize their showdown value. So I'm a little bit scared of another flush here. Obviously, he could be having sets, 2 pairs, and other flushes here, along with a top pair with a king. But given that I raised on the turn here, I don't think that his bet here is very weak at all. I consider raising here with my flush. However, I would be in a very bad situation if he decides to re-raise. And also, I've been reading some of your comments, and if I raised here, what would I be getting called by that I beat? Ace King? No, because if he bet 60 and I raise it up to like 170 or 180, I think a king folds there all day. With 3 spades on the board, a set would be in a tough situation here. 2 pairs definitely folding. So I think really the only hands that call us here are sets and flushes. I don't know. I think it's 50-50. You can let me know down in the comments below. This is the most interesting spot of the entire vlog, in my opinion. Do I need to be raising here on the river, or should I just flat call? Given the way it was played, I decided to just put in the $60 and make the call here. He shows A7 with the ace of spades here, so he was obviously going for the 4th spade on the river, and when that did not hit, he decided to fire and try to blow me off a hand here. Obviously, I am not going anywhere with my flush. I have made the call. We are good with the flush. We scooped this pot, and yeah, that was a interesting hand to say the least. I'm interested to see what you guys say in the comments below. So with that hand over, we play another couple orbits, win some small pots, c-betting with some bluffs, c-betting with some value. Nothing too interesting that I wanted to share here, but we end up racking up our chips, taking it to the counter, and with that, our session at Agua Caliente is over. So yeah, we got into the game for around $300, and we cashed out for $919 for a profit of $619 in around a session that lasted 3 hours. If you guys like this video, please hit the like button. It helps out more than you know. If you like this type of content, leave a comment down below letting me know that you liked it or what you didn't like about it. As always, I appreciate your feedback. It means a lot to me. And if you are new here, consider subscribing. I'm going to be putting out videos at least twice a week. And as you can tell from these videos, I don't post anything other than hand histories at the moment. So it's just going to be content from here on out. I look forward to reading all your comments, and I will see you in the next one. Peace. Thanks for watching to the end of my video. Click my head below to subscribe and stay in the loop. See you next time.